What's up, everybody? It's Stephen A. Williams, president and founder of thecreditrepairshop.com. And in today's video, we're going to talk about paying down debt. There are several different options that are available to people, and I get a lot of questions about, hey, which option is going to work best for me? And I tell people is that the way for you to get out of debt is going to really be based off of your situation, your specific situation, and it's also going to be based off of what your habits are and your ability to overcome certain habits. Because, the crazy thing is that some of the times people will try to match themselves to a solution that might sound good, but they're not really evaluating their own situation. And then you'll have that clash where it doesn't work for them. And then you're like, well, why did it work for this other person? That's actually why, when I'm reading this book on logic and one on psychology, and it's like, why do some people see things one way and some people see things another way? But the solution to the problem is, what they're saying in the book is that the solution does not match the individual that has the bad experience, and the person who has a good experience. That solution matched their situation. And so what I tell people a lot, and that's why I also tell people when they go, please go, before signing up with us, before calling, becoming a lead or anything, go watch the video on my website, What Makes Us Different. Because that's the type of client that we would like to work with, because you have to, number one, be in the mindset of what I share on that video. But don't go there yet. You're going to get an opportunity to go there. Let's talk about getting out of debt, because debt is at an all-time high. Credit card debt, repo debt, automobile debt where people are paying on stuff, student loan debt. Debt is just ballooned up. But I'm not one of these people who's saying, woe is me, it's too much debt and you can't climb your way out of it. I'm not one of those types of people. And I think that that's what makes me special with giving you information here on YouTube, because I've actually went through this stuff and I've dealt with people who have went through this stuff. So that gives me a wide array of knowledge to be able to share with you. But have you ever watched a video or saw some information or went to a seminar and you're like, this person does not know nothing really about what people go through who is dealing with this? They're just trying to make it like, oh, they come knocking on your door to take your car, and it's like, okay, take the car. It ain't like that. People get to that position of come take the car. Before that, you don't want them to come take your car. I went through that. You don't want them to come take your car. It's not that easy. You see that a lot with these financial gurus telling people how to get out of debt, like it is just so easy. If you just follow this book, follow that, you're going to get through that. And when it all really comes down to the mindset of the individual and their specific situation. So I think that that's what makes me special on here, is that I've went through the downside of, number one, not having money, building a business, having money, and then blowing that money, like totally just being totally financially irresponsible, and then taking a 5-year span for me and my wife to work our way out of that situation. Like to work our way out of that situation, and we did not file bankruptcy, but I've worked with clients who did have to file bankruptcy. And I know the mindset and the feelings that they had. Some of them had religious feelings of not wanting to file bankruptcy. Some people just didn't want to file bankruptcy, and they're like, I've heard so much bad things about bankruptcy. And I just tell them from my experiences that it's not about you filing bankruptcy. It's about your sanity. It's about you being able to keep your household together. You don't want your family to just fall apart. Like, it doesn't matter. Does it matter that you have a document that'll say bankruptcy on there if you can't be with your wife and kids? If you can't feed them and keep a roof over their head and transportation and have them feel safe. You're going to let a word, bankruptcy disrupt you. You're going to hold up the word of bankruptcy over your family. And I tell my clients and people that I consult with, it's mainly what I went through this with is my business clients who have just had disruption with their business. And I tell them, these are the decisions that you got to make. And don't sit there and try to make that decision based on your religion. Don't sit there and try to make that decision based on a word of, I don't want to file bankruptcy. You make that decision based on your situation and based on what you got to hold together right now for you and your family. And I think that that's what makes me different than all of these other people here on YouTube, is that I went through it and that I go through it with my clients right now and I see them through it. And it takes, every situation is totally different. None of them are exactly the same. And that's what makes us all individuals. That's what makes us all individuals. Now, the main 3 ways that is out there right now for getting out of debt is, number 1, where you pay down your debt. That's where and really I should flip-flop these because this is the one that, the new way that a lot of people are talking about. But you pay down your debt. I've talked about the strategy that I used, that me and my wife personally used, and it does work, but it's going to be dependent on your situation. And this way won't ruin your credit, even though our credit got ruined, but my credit was way down, way down, probably lower than anyone that's on here. It was in the 4s. It was destroyed. I'm at 834 now. So that, like, I've had a 400 and some point jump over a period of time on my credit. But let's talk about how the feelings and what I went through at that point. Is, now you don't have to do this to save your credit. All you have to do is just look at your debt. And with all of these, you're going to have to write down everything, your expenses, what you have to pay with your payments and your expenses. Like, no matter what, with all of these, you're going to have to make that change in your habit. That's what's going to have to happen with all of them. Now, each of these are going to have their own key pieces that can make it very difficult for you, especially if you got a lot of stuff going on. It can make it very difficult for you. But let's talk about the first one here. It's where you're just like, hey, you and your spouse, you sit down and you say, we can't keep living like this. This is what happened with my wife and I in 1994. We were like, we barely made any money. And we started our business in 1990. And then by 1994, making over $100,000 a year. So going from like barely making a little over $1,500 a month when I'm 20 years old, to now I'm 24 years old, I'm making over $100,000 a year, and I'm worse off financially. Just got a whole bunch of junk. So you got to sit down and you got to decide. You got to make that first decision, that decision on the inside to say, this is no more. Because when you make that decision on the inside, that allows you to get strong on the outside. See, when people look at you and you wonder why they don't believe you on something, it's because they see, they hear what you're saying, but they see your body. I'm going to get out of debt. And then you got this new, you went out and bought something new. So you say, but what are you doing? So when you decide, that means that when I decide, that means that everything on the outside needs to start changing. So if you were someone that was just going out every weekend spending money, that's going to stop. When your friends call you, let's go out to dinner and do that, that's going to stop. When you were buying a new car every couple of years or whatever, that's going to stop. It's going to have to stop. There is no other way. Now, let's go back to, okay, Steve, you're saying that and you try to make it sound so easy. Well, let me tell you what I went through in 1994 to 1999. We did not buy any new cars. We did not get another car. We kept the same car. And I actually bought for the delivery for my publication business, I bought a cargo van, and on that cargo van, we didn't have cell phones back then like we got now. Because I surely would have took a pictures, because people don't even believe it. The floor on the driver's side of that cargo van, you could see the ground. So while I'm driving, I can see the ground. Now, okay, Fred Flintstone, all of that stuff, but up here in Wisconsin, it could get to be 24 degrees below zero. And no matter what I did with the heat, that cold air coming from underneath the car, my feet were like bricks. But guess what? I still knew what had to be done. I had to make it through that to get to something better. And I said, no matter what, I'm not going to go out there and get into other debt. We bought this cargo van for $1,500 and we're going to deal with it. If it breaks down, we're going to fix it. And the crazy thing about it, the floor never did. The floor had problems, but that cargo van never broke down. That's crazy. Is that the universe you're saying, Steve, you made the right decision? Yeah, your feet are going to freeze, but let me tell you something. I'm not going to let that cargo van break down. That cargo van never broke down. And then when I sold that cargo van, somebody actually bought that cargo van. So maybe they were on the same thought, the thought line or whatever vibration that I was on, because someone bought that cargo van and they're using it. We're talking back in like, I think it's like 1997, somewhere around that time. And I ended up buying a truck for like $1,500. And man, it was a brown Ford. And the reason why I bought that truck, because it would allow me to put our publications in the back. They could just put the forklift, put them in the back. And this truck, this is the truth. This truck was about to split in half. I'm driving, this truck is about to split in half. I never drove that truck on the freeway. And I lived about 45 minutes away from Milwaukee at that time. And I would drive up with that truck, and I would have to go down to get the publications in another city and then come up. So it was actually an extended drive to do that. I only had that to do that one day a week with that truck. But that truck was about to break in half. But my wife and I decided we wasn't going to live that way. We're going to work our way out of this debt. And it was $300,000 in debt. So we made those decisions. So now let's talk about paying down debt. You don't want to ruin your credit. You save, I'll just put here, you save your credit. So what you do is you get deferments. That's why I said it depends on your situation. You could call all of your creditors, the credit card company, your automobile. You could do it with your mortgage with a forbearance, but you got to get everything in writing. And I would also like to not have to have you do it with your mortgage unless it comes down to it that you just got to do it. But if you can do it with your mortgage, which I wish a lot of people would have done during COVID, you could have put so much of that money into paying down debt. It would just been unbelievable. Not to say that some people didn't do it, but that was like one of those openings where they would have had to do it. It wouldn't have been any issues where you got it in forbearance and you had some type of come around where the paperwork was messed up or whatever. You would have been able to pay that debt down. If you had $2,000 and if your mortgage is $2,000 a month, yeah, they're going to put it on the back, but you could have had $24,000 to pay down a lot of your debt. So you want to get deferments on everything. You want to see how much your monthly payments would be on all of those deferments. Let's just say that it ends up being like $3,000. I have a client right now that has over $8,000 with the deferments. They ended up having $8,000 a month that they had saved by not having to go out. Now, their debt is higher, so it would still have to end up being with settlements, but they have 6 months of deferments, and then they're going to end up letting those accounts just, charge off, and then they're going to use the money that they save over the 6 months to do settlements. And that is an option. But right now we're talking about doing it with being able to save your credit. So now the next thing, and this shows proof that I understand about what's going to happen next. This is what is going to happen next. Listen to me, is that you're going to save this money. I'm just saying, I believe in you because you're my subscriber. You're going to save that money. You're not going to blow it. But the next thing that's going to happen is what I call the invisible expense. This is where does this money go? This is the coffee. This is the Starbucks. This is all the different things that you spend your money on. What is this? Let me tell you, the best way to do this is to get an envelope or whatever you want to get, a basket, whatever, and you're going to put all of your receipts. When you go to the store, no more, I don't want the receipt, none of that. No, get your receipts. If they send it digital, print it out, stick it in there, or just have a tabulation, stick it in there. I want you to do that for 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks. Reason why I want you to do it over a period of time is so you can see exactly what you're spending. Don't change anything with this right now. Because if you try to do too much changing, you're not going to do it at all. It's just like trying to lose weight. If you try to stop eating too much or whatever, the sweets and everything all on the first day, what you're going to do on the next day or what you're going to do in a week later, you're going to just blow up. So I don't want you to change any of this stuff right here. You have your plan with the deferments. And then what I want you to do is I want you to get those receipts and I want you to just put them all in here. At the end of a week, I would like for you to review them, but maybe you don't do anything about it. I just want you to review it. After 2 weeks, I want you to see your pattern. After 3 weeks, we're going to look at changing your pattern. After 4 weeks, you've got to change your pattern because you're going to have a full accounting. I want you to get that dollar amount, and maybe this could be something like an extra $1,000 that you're spending on restaurants, buying an extra pair of shoes or whatever it is. Whatever it is. Maybe it's just stuff for the kids too. We're going to evaluate. All we're going to do is we're going to evaluate this spending. It might even be higher than this. What I find with a lot of people, even what happened with myself, is that when I took account for this right here, it helped us save so much money. When me and my wife looked at that, it was like, whoa. So this is a lot of money that we're spending on stuff that we don't need. You're buying stuff over and over and over again. So you're going to use this money to start paying down your debt. You need to look at your the debt that you have, and you need to start with the smallest. Like we talk about with Dave Ramsey, with the smallest to the large. The reason why they do the smallest to the large is because they want to get you used to doing something. And that's what I talk about right here, is to get your mindset moving in the right direction. Have a small victory, and then you have another victory, then it'll be a lot easier for you to be able to accomplish your goal. And that's exactly what happened with my wife and I, is that we started having victories, and we wasn't able to save our credit. We had to let stuff go and then negotiate on stuff. And some stuff did not get proven, and that's, I think I went through all of that to be able to help you here with the Credit Repair Shop channel. Okay, so that's the first way. In short, there's more to it, but this is like, if you want just a simple process that you could just sit down and see if that would work to save your credit, this is what you could do right here. And this is where that extra money comes from. A lot of people will say, well, I'm going to have to pay this. Like, this is like C-minute expenses. But right here is that extra money, because a lot of people they'll say, I don't have any extra money. How do you know you don't have any extra money? You haven't even sat down and done any of this stuff right here. Now, the next one is, even though I would rather put Velocity over there, Velocity Banking, But a lot of people are talking about velocity banking where you'll use debt to pay down debt. And basically, in short, what they're doing is they're using the interest rates against the loan. So let's just say you have your mortgage. A lot of people use it for the mortgage because the mortgage doesn't use simple interest. So that what they'll have people do is they'll put all of their expenses onto a card, some sort of revolving account instrument, and then they will pay their mortgage early. They will continue to pay their mortgage early, and then they will recoup and be able to pay their expenses from that card that they have. So they'll put all of their income into that card, and then they will pay their mortgage, pay their interest, and so this, I'll admit, this is, I've seen this, but I don't know too much about it. But I do know that it does work for people, but it takes a lot of you're gonna have to be very disciplined to make it work. But basically, what they're doing is you're using a revolving account to pay your expenses, and then you're paying your mortgage out of that revolving account. And because your mortgage is not on simple interest, you're able to pay that debt down because you're not holding as much on the mortgage each time, because you're paying it at a time where mortgages is about a daily rate. You're paying that ahead of time, and you're able to pay less. And over a period of time, you'll be able to pay your mortgage down faster. Now, if you don't want to add that extra step, this is adding an extra step that you got to be very disciplined on. You can actually do this same thing. And I learned this trick. With my car, is that what you could do, but it does take, if you have money. This is mainly used when people don't have money. But one thing that you can do is you can just pay your mortgage. But a lot of people, I understand, aren't able to do this. Pay your mortgage. So say your mortgage is due on the 1st. So you make a payment on the 1st, you make a payment on the 2nd. You would essentially be doing the same thing if you did that. You pay your mortgage on the 1st, you pay principal on the 2nd. You would essentially be doing the same thing. But this is where a lot of people get into trouble. Well, not to get into trouble is where they can't keep up, is that they can't keep up that same pattern. They don't have the money to be able to keep up that same pattern. But if you think about it, regardless of what you do with infinite banking, regardless of what you do, you're going to have to use your income to be able to pay down that debt. You can beat the interest rate, but you still are going to have to pay using your income. And a lot of people get into trouble with it. Well, I won't say a lot. If you're disciplined, you won't get into trouble. But if you're not disciplined, what's going to end up happening is that if you increase any of your expenses to where you're not able to continue with that pattern that they have put in place for you, you're going to run into trouble. Now, admittedly, I have not looked at all of the different options. I saw that people could do this with credit cards. I saw that people could do it with their mortgages. You could do it with automobiles. You could, try to figure out a way to do it with any type of debt. But one of the things that is a qualifier to be able to do this is, number one, you got to be able to get another card to be able to use, or another line of credit that isn't overutilized to be able to use this. You need a fresh account. Some people can't get a fresh account. Also, there's been reports that some of the credit card companies, when they see this pattern being used, that they actually close the account. That you can do that research yourself. I've actually seen those reports where they will actually, some of the credit card companies, when they start to see that people are doing their stuff this way, that they actually close the account, because there are certain rules on certain items that are not supposed to be used with a credit card. There are certain payments that are not supposed to be used with a credit card. I don't think that it's a rule because it's a bad thing. I think it's a rule because the banks don't want to allow you a way to be able to beat their interest rate system. Uh, so the next one here, debt relief, which is the one that most people are falling into. The reason why more people are falling into this one than these two right here is because people cannot pay their payments. And the number one benefit that people see right off the bat, like, you know, when people are selling stuff, with this here, you have to make the calls for the deferment. You have to do this exercise of figuring out where your invisible expenses are coming from. With this one here, you got to open up another line of credit, or if you can pay off one that you have that can cover your expenses so you can cover the mortgage. Depending on your mortgage, that's going to be steep for some people. They're going to feel kind of unsure about doing that. And you cannot increase your expenses. You have to stay on this pattern for a number of years, and that's going to be very difficult for people. But with the debt relief one, the reason why a lot of people will jump on that one is because what they'll do is they'll say, okay, hey, you got $20,000 in credit card debt or in debt, unsecured debt. We believe we can settle that for half or less, which they cannot guarantee that. That's just what they say. And you're paying $2,000 a month to service that debt. We can cut that in half, and you send us $1,000 a month, and you keep $1,000 a month. So right here, it's simple. You see the benefit. You see what they're going to do with that other money. They're supposed to save that up to pay that debt, which at that amount, even if they were able to get 50%, that would take you 10 months to be able to do that. And that sounds like a good deal. Well, the thing that people don't know, that they don't understand, they do make it clear to you, but people don't understand, is that for each of your debt, they're going to tack on plus 25 or more percent on the debt. So in actuality, you're settling the debt for 75%. You don't even know it, but you're actually selling the debt for 75%, which is still better than 100%. So don't get me wrong. But if you're thinking that you're going to be putting that money in there and you're going to settle, they're going to settle the debt for exactly what you put the money in there for, that's not going to happen. Also, dealing with debt relief is not credit repair. Your credit is going to be totally destroyed because all of those debts have to charge off for you to even be able to offer settlements to these companies. And yes, they can sue you regardless. And the debt settlement companies do not assist you with lawsuits. They do not assist you with lawsuits. And if they did, they're going to charge you more probably than what you owe for the debt, because they're going to have to get an attorney in that area to represent you. And what are they going to do? They're going to still end up doing the settlement, and you're going to end up having to come up with additional money, because that money that's put in the escrow here is for the other plan. It's not for any outside plan. Don't take my word on it. Ask them these questions. The next thing is that you still have to have a mindset change, because if you don't change your mindset and you end up taking that extra $1,000, even though you're sending them $1,000, what's going to start happening? If you use that extra money to just go out and spend it, you're going to find yourself in a worse situation. That's why you'll find people who have went into these programs and their expectations were that they were going to get this debt settled, and it's not settled. Not settled in the time frame that they thought it would be settled in, and that they're still finding themselves hard to even make the $1,000 payment, because they were already struggling with the $2,000, and now to stay in the program they have to keep making that $1,000 payment. And then the debt relief companies cannot make a creditor or debt collector accept a certain amount. Yes, these companies do want to make settlements, but they cannot tell them what settlement. And I can tell you from experience, there's another thing that makes it where my experience is different than what these other people have went through. That settlement companies know this, but if they told you this, you might choose different options. Is that those companies, they cannot make them settle. the debt regardless. It's the decision of the original creditor and the debt collection company. It's their decision. But another thing that they don't want to tell you is that with original creditors, this is what really gets people upset, is that you have to go through a charge-off process. If it's not charged off, there is not going to be any settlements. And during that period of time, they're going to be calling, they're going to be emailing, they're going to be trying to figure out what is going on. Why did you stop paying? These companies told you to stop paying. These companies said that they're going to be handling that for you, which they are, but nothing can be done until it's charged off. And then again, after it's charged off, the companies have to make a determination if they're going to try to come after you for it with a lawsuit or just maintain it and say, hey, can we work out something? Or they're going to sell it, and then you're going to be dealing with a debt collector. From experience, when it first charges off, and if the original creditor maintains the debt, the amount that they're willing to settle on is not going to be, a low amount. They're going to roughly be around 75%. So if they're at 75%, and then you have to pay 25% on top of that, you're at 100%. And now this is what these companies will tell you to do. I'm just giving you the information so you're better prepared. If you know that companies at the beginning, and this is from experience, these companies, a credit card company that maintains their debt, American Express, Capital One, Discover, Barclays, they will usually keep their debt. And the lineup is getting longer and longer because they're figuring out the game that the debt collection companies are doing. They maintain their debt and they say, okay, we want to keep it. We'll hire a debt collection company to try to collect on it. Debt relief company calls and talks to them. They say, well, we'll take 75%. They owed us $10,000. We'll take $7,500. That's a good deal. They owed us $10,000. We'll even get rid of all of the late fees and all of that stuff. We'll just go off of the principal and make it 75%. That company is not going to, number one, if you don't have $7,500 built up in your account, they're not even going to accept it. And you're like, hey, I got $7,500 with your money. I got, let's just say I built up 5,000. I got 2,500. Let's settle. They won't settle it because they have to get their 25%. Don't take my word on it. Do your research. This is exactly what is happening with people. They're like, I had the money to settle. So what do they do next? They get a loan. They get people to get a loan. They get people to get a loan. This is what they're doing. Look it up. Like I was amazed when I saw that. I was like, that may not even be the right word. I don't want to say amazed. The right word would be, I was disappointed. Because we're talking about debt relief, and why would you get someone to get a loan when they're trying to get out of debt? And you're going to get them a loan? And then one of our clients that actually came in, they did the settlement, but they had that loan that was able to make that settlement. And she said, I can't pay this loan that they got. Do you think that they're going to give you a loan at a low interest rate from this company that is giving these bridge loans to help them get their fees? No. So then they paid the settlement, and then now they're coming after her for the loan that they gave her to pay the rest of the settlement and the commissions for doing the settlement. This is just the way this stuff is. So this is what you got to be prepared to go through. For all three of these, no matter which one you take, it's going to take a change of your mindset. It's going to take discipline, and it's going to take time. A lot of people keep thinking that things have to be a quick fix, that it has to be something that's a quick fix. It's going to take time. So I hope you appreciated this video. Please like this video. Please post your questions and comments. If you need help with your credit, please visit us at thecreditrepairshop.com. Watch video what makes us different. So you can see my 8-point validation process, my two-phase settlement process. If you need your credit reports and scores, go to the website your3scores.com. Grab your TransUnion, Equifax, Experian credit reports and all 3 scores. If you have debt collectors coming after you, grab my 3-pack of letters: statute of limitations, cease and desist collection activities letter, and debt validation letter. Use the one that's appropriate for your situation. I do ask for a donation with those 3 letters. The one that you may need can save you time, money, and frustration. It can get the job done to stop debt collectors early when they send you that demand letter. Thank you for your time.